Well, welcome again to my reports. There's a lot of good information in this, but whether you believe in God or not is not the point that I want to do this, the way I'm going to do it. I am going to show you day 1 to 7 of the creation from the old book, but then we're going to show you a lot more information concerning what we have in this world today. And I've got Josh with me. He's a friend of mine. He's got a lot more information that he's going to also share with you.
We're going to be discussing from a biblical perspective, creation and evolution, the creation of dinosaurs, everything made by Yahweh, the specifically adapted creatures, genetically modified foods, evil and the nations, the heavens and the earth being shaken, and the creation of a new earth.
Now, item 9 on our index is going to be talking about Yahweh, the Creator God. Already, as you've seen in this index, he has destroyed the earth approximately 1,150 years after creation. He's going to destroy the earth again because he's absolutely angry about the wickedness of all of the nations. And I'll just read it to you. Yahweh speaking, I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land. I will shake all of the nations in the earth, and the precious things of all of the nations will arrive here. He goes on to say, I am shaking the heavens and the earth. I will upset the thrones of kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of all of the kingdoms on this earth. Okay, this is point 1, Genesis 1:1, part 1. You'll notice there's a blue ring around the earth, and that is the water capsule. And you're going to see in the words from Yahweh that he split this up, and some of it remains outside in the galaxy, and some is released down to the earth, which makes the seas and the creeks and rivers, etc. Now we're up to day 1 and day 2. In the beginning, Yahweh God made light. But notice something here. He did not make the sun or the moon and the stars. He did not make them for light until the 4th day. So who was the light here in the beginning? Yahweh God was the light. Okay, we're up to day 2, and as you can see now, Yahweh God makes the inner sky, the firmament. And you'll notice that I've given you a note. This is where he has prepared the air for us to breathe, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% argon. And remember this, only 0.038% is carbon dioxide. So he's preparing the habitat for all creatures to live in. Okay, we're up to day 2 and 3. And as you can see, Yahweh God now is making trees, plants, all of the herbage, and this means he's preparing a place for all of the animals, all of the birds, all of the insects to have food to eat. Now, as you can see, we're up to day 4, and it's not until now that Yahweh God makes the sun, moon and stars and our galaxy. We're going to give you good information shortly on the next couple of clips about how vast and how big the galaxy is. Remember, also, Yahweh said he's making the sun, the moon, for a purpose. And that purpose is not only for day and night, the 24-hour period, but it's also for the months and the seasons and the years. In other words, it also brings in the summertime and the wintertime, and there's the reason why we have the sun, moon and stars in the sky.
It is curious to note throughout history various cultures have used the sun, the moon and the stars to determine the seasons and times for planting. It's been an effective way of producing the highest yield from crops and has since been dropped out of use due to genetically modified foods and high yield plants.
Okay, now that you can see we're up to day 5 of the 7-day creation. It's on day 5 now after he's prepared all of the plant life, all of the herbage, all of the fruit and the fruit trees, and he's made the sun, moon and stars to measure the 24-day period and the months and the seasons and the years. Now he's making all of the living creatures that's going to accommodate in this new earth. The fish, the whales, the birds, the fowls, all of the insects, they're all being produced now by the hand of Yahweh to populate the earth.
Most people do not recognise how big the universe is. Do you realise that 1.3 million Earths could fit inside the Sun? That it takes 8.5 minutes for the light from the Sun to reach Earth? Or that you could travel 20 billion light years in any direction from the Earth and never reach the edge of the universe? This is one awesome clock. Do you realise that some of the stars in our universe are over 400 times bigger than the Sun, all of which created to help man tell the seasons and the time of the year, to tell when to plant plants and when to harvest?
There's a chart on your screen now that you can see from days 1 to day 7, and of course you can see there that on the 7th day Yahweh God said he rested on it, and that is also what he referred to as the Sabbath day, the day of rest, that he asked all mankind on this earth to recognize as a memorial of his creation week. Now notice when Yahweh was speaking about what he made, all of the fruit, all of the trees, he emphasizes one thing. He said everything is to be made with seeds that produce fruit after its own kind. And I've always said to farmers and people that want to grow things, get open pollinated variety seeds. Do not plant the GM modified plants that you'll pick up from the nurseries. And you can see a picture there of a cucumber. There's no seeds in it. That is a genetically modified fruit.
Here we are with another fruit that does not have seeds. Now, a fruit without seeds grew on a plant without a root system sufficient to draw the required minerals to create the seeds in this fruit. So therefore it is reasonable to suggest that the seedless fruits do not have the minerals and required vitamins to sustain a healthy body. I'd like to introduce you to a very curious creation, the Apis apius, commonly known as the swift. They drink, feed, mate and sleep on the wing in all weather conditions. They can cover up to 70,000 kilometres return flight from Europe to the Australian in the summer of each year, returning to the same nest site to raise their young. It is interesting to note that these birds can fly more accurately than any machine or piece of electronics made by mankind. They are more accurate than a guided missile and more stable than a jet aeroplane.
Remember, we're talking about a living creature that was made by the hand of Yahweh God. It can fly at level flight 115 kilometres per hour. That means it's breaking the speed limit going along the highway. And it's been scientifically proven that for the first 2 years when they are young, they stay on the wing. They don't even come to land anywhere on the earth. Realising also that their lifespan is between 12 and 20 years, what does that do for the evolution theory of natural selection? And what does that do for people that believe that everything happened with a big bang or a blob?
There is no way in the short lifespan this bird has that it could possibly learn or be educated to do what it does. It has to be born with that programming in its mind. It is totally incapable of evolving this skill. It must have been planted in it by a divine creator, Yahweh God.
Now realise also that the air currents up at 10,000 feet could take this beautiful little bird off course. How does it make adjustments to stay on course? It does. It makes adjustments to stay on course, and it will fly to where it wants to fly in the southern hemisphere or the northern hemisphere without any error.
Furthermore, on the point of intelligent design and intelligent education, all animals, birds and insects are either omnivore, carnivore or herbivore. made perfectly to fit in their place in the ecosystem of nature. They do not live millions of years to suit evolution theory of natural selection. How long do you think it would take a herbivore to decide to eat meat, or a carnivore to decide to eat plants? It's not going to happen, not in the short lifespans of the creatures of the earth. These creatures must have been carefully programmed at a time of creation and created with intelligent design.
Now, there's a lot more in the old book about Yahweh God the Creator, and I'll put a couple of snippets up there for you on your screen. Number one, Yahweh says, I have set the sand as a permanent boundary against the sea, Jeremiah 5. Number two, Yahweh promises, all of the false gods who did not create life, who did not create this earth and this solar system, all of them will be destroyed and their names will never be recalled anymore. All of those who teach people to reject Yahweh the Creator God, and all those who teach falsehood, that's evolution, he will destroy. And that's in Jeremiah 10 and of course in Daniel 2. Item 3. Yahweh created our lips and speech. Have you ever thought of that? We've got thousands of different languages in the earth. Where did they come from? Who taught mankind that? That's in Isaiah 57. Item 4. Yahweh made the souls of man. And he tells you that all souls are, he says, all souls are mine. And when a soul that sins, it will die. And if you go to Ezekiel 18, you'll get a lot of details on that. Item 5. Now in item 5, Yahweh created, and he created the destroyer, to demolish. That's in Isaiah 54. He also made evil. Now a lot of people don't realize that Yahweh God created evil. In item 6, Yahweh made the earth's foundation, and he says that his right hand measured out and made the heavens. You'll get that in Isaiah 48. It also makes it clear to you that Yahweh by himself made the heavens and the earth. And he says that he will make a new earth and a new heavens, as you'll see further on in some of the clips that we're going to show you.
Now here is something that flies directly in the face of evolution. If evolution were true, how many billion years are there between the simple reflex-driven brain of an ape and the brain that is located in the top of your head right now? It's like comparing a pocket calculator to a Pentium chip. There has to be intelligent design between those two devices. Our best possible guess of the average human brain capacity would be by calculating using the number of synapses connecting the neurons in the human brain. Because each of the synapses have different molecular states, we have estimated that each of them would be capable of holding 50 megabytes worth of memory. Since the brain has 100 trillion synapses, we can safely assume that the brain can hold more than 500 million zettabytes of memory. The brain, composed of over 80% water, controls each and every process that happens inside of our body. This control is maintained by constantly sending and receiving electrical signals through our nervous system, which in reality is nothing more than an elaborate system of tiny waterways. The fluid inside our nerves is made up almost completely of water and minerals. We have over 4.25 million miles of lymphatic system in the body, and which is composed of over 72% water.
All right, now we're getting into one of the biggest questions that have completely bamboozled mankind. This is about 2610 BC. Now these are the words of Yahweh. Yahweh said, I will destroy all man and all living creatures. Yahweh could see that everything, all flesh, had become corrupted on the earth. And he said, I will bring a flood to destroy it all. I will open the windows of heaven and the earth with waters to flood the whole earth. And remember, in the beginning of this documentary, we showed you how there was water encapsulated over the earth in the galaxy. Now, when the outer bubble of water was brought down to the earth, remember, then all of the north and the south poles, the poles iced over. And that is why today you can find tropical plants and tropical birds, tropical animals under the ice in the poles of this earth. God placed all of the pure, the natural created animals and birds, etc. He placed them on the ark to be preserved with Noah to repopulate the earth. All of the dinosaurs are misfits that were not created by Yahweh but were mutants. They were made by the wicked hand of man, and they were also infertile, and they were destroyed by the flood. Not one teenager dinosaur or one fertile egg has ever been found on the earth. Now you might wonder whether or not mankind was more intelligent thousands of years ago. Well, my bet is that they were far more intelligent. If today they can make Dolly the sheep and they can clone everything and they can do it in a laboratory with a test tube, well, you can realise here that mankind was fiddling with Yahweh's creations. Mankind can't make anything, but mankind can fiddle with and tamper with and alter and corrupt the natural created things that Yahweh God has made.
At this point, I would like to discuss an important topic in genetics. That is the telomere. All animals have a genetic life expectancy, aside one, the reptile. Now that is why the dinosaurs were reptilian in nature. They were able to manipulate the DNA of reptiles to grow bigger, larger animals. Scientists, in all their attempts to clone animals, always bash into the same wall, the genetic life expectancy. Cloned animals have very little life expectancy and a total inability to reproduce. That is proof that these abominations, these dinosaurs, were created by mankind and they needed to be wiped from the earth using a global flood.
You will recall when you read the old book, Noah had a message to tell the people, hop on board the boat and you will be saved. Well, here we are today, getting close to Yahweh's day of wrath, his day of anger, and he's given lots and lots of words in his old book to warn you that he's going to do it again. I'll read further in the old book. The great day of Yahweh is near. It is near and hastens greatly. It is the sound of the day of Yahweh. In your Christian Bible, you'll have the day of the Lord. Also, he says, it will be a day of fury is that day, a day of trouble and distress, a day of destruction and desolation, a day of darkness and blackness. And it comes into a time which he says will be a time of trouble such as never was ever before on this earth. Now that time of trouble is just around the corner, and it will be carried out by the evil minds of evil leaders, evil nations. He will have them pit each other against each other until they wipe themselves out. But this time of trouble, such as never was before in this earth's history, he makes it clear that his people, that is the new Israel people, and I said new Israel people, the second group that has the name Israel. And remember something I showed you in my previous reports? The name Israel, call it a brand name. And it's an own brand name by Yahweh. He can call up a new group of people and they will carry the same name, Israel. And they will be delivered out of the time of trouble. The oligarchy, the banking cartel, the United Nations, the New World Order, all of these evil people will be destroyed by the hand of Yahweh. And I've given that to you in my previous reports. So we're headed for a time of trouble such as never was before in the history of this earth. So now I've given you how the whole world started, what he's created, what he's made. And now I'm going to show you a few charts to how it's all going to finish up. And as I said before, there is a new group of Israel because you've got to realize, in my previous reports, and if you read the old book, Yahweh rejected totally, as you know, the 10 tribes of Israel were taken captive by Assyria, 721 BC. He chucked the rest out in 586 BC to Babylon. They came back to Jerusalem thinking that they were still his chosen people. And I showed you in the report, they were no longer still his chosen people. They were no longer under the protection of Yahweh, and over 500,000 of them got slaughtered when they went back to Jerusalem to build their second temple. Yes, there will be another temple built, but it won't be built by a mob of evil people that he's rejected. There will definitely not be built with people that are murderers and idolaters and liars and cheats and hypocrites. It will be built by a new chosen Israel people that you would have seen in my previous report. They are true to him. They keep his laws. They are faithful. And they are the people that will be redeemed into the new earth which he has promised to make. All right, you've got on your screen now a chart who wrote the Torah. And I put this here because it's very important for you to understand. You will get some of this information in my previous reports. Item 1, there's a fellow called Rabbi Akiva and his top 10 rabbis. They concocted what you now call the Mishnah and the oral law, the Talmud. The Rabbi Minyan Talmud rabbis wrote the Tanakh Bible and the Targums, and you'll see that they have done that from 550 BC to 150 AD, and that was in the field of the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin, and that's been terminated. Akiva was a creator of what is called the Rabbinical Bible. That's a version elaborated with the aid of his pupil Aquila. And that also became the Christian Bible. And item 2, like Philo, I'll just read the highlights there. Akiva and Philo, they perceived in the writings on the parchas that there are indications of many important ceremonial sacrificial laws, legal statutes and ethical teachings. And you've got the reference there to look it up yourself. I put that there because I've come to the conclusion through my research that, as they say, Moses wrote the Torah. That's a lie. Aquila was a man after Akiva's heart. Under Akiva's guidance, he gave the Greek-speaking Jews what is referred to as the Rabbinical Bible. Now, it also says that the halakha, which is Akiva's opinion, is the halakha for Judaism today. Item 5, Akiva, it tells you, created his own midrash. That's the beginning of the Talmud. He even makes a claim that he discovered things that were unknown to Moses. Akiva made the accumulated treasure of what they call the oral law. But in Deuteronomy 6, item 6, Deuteronomy, the Mishnah Torah, and it'll tell you there, that was written by Moshe ben Maimon, also known as Rambam. And Rambam, the Mishnah, the Torah, Deuteronomy, was written by Rambam from 1170 to 1180. That's the 12th century AD. And that tells you that Maimonides was living in Egypt at that time. Now, the reason why I've given you this information is to show to you that the New Testament, which came out of the Catholic Church, the people going back to Moses and going back early years, they were all into idol worship, and they were copying what the people of Egypt were doing, and that included blood sin sacrifices. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of texts on this chart that you've got in front of you. In Hosea 8, it tells you that Yahweh did not want blood sin sacrifices. In item 2 there, 840 BC, Yahweh said he did not want the blood sacrifices to come into the temple. In item 3, about 780 BC, item makes it clear. He said, did you have to bring blood sin sacrifices to me throughout the whole 40 years that you came out of the wilderness from Egypt? And of course, no, he did not want and did not ask and did not command. In Jeremiah 7, it will give you more instructions that Yahweh did not command, did not request, did not ask for any sacrifices all of those 40 years that they came out from Egypt. So why is the Torah, why is the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, why is it full of stories about how to kill animals for blood sin sacrifice? And if you go to Jeremiah 7, that's item 6 on your chart, it tells you there, Yahweh speaking, I did not command them on the day that I took them out of Egypt. And also, he tells you, I did not command or speak to your forefathers. Now, if he didn't speak to his forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, where did they get the idea to have blood sin sacrifice? Also, why is there a story that allegedly God spoke to Abraham and said, take your son up there on the top of the hill and kill him for a sacrifice? That story cannot be true, because Yahweh speaks here to 4 different prophets. He gave no such command that they were to kill any sacrifice or any blood sin sacrifice.
Okay, here's a chart for you to examine. Pause the film and rewind and look at it at some later point. It's a summary of what we've said and a breakdown in slices of time as to what has happened in the history of the earth regarding Yahweh's creation and what we have just summarised here. What I'm about to present to you is one of the most important things in this entire film, the happenings of the past years. We all saw it. We all saw it in front of us on the news and around the world at the beginning of 2012. It did not matter where you lived or what you saw. You saw it on TV and you saw it on the roads and in the towns around you. Dead animals across the entire planet. Take a look at this and really open your eyes, have a look, see what is around you. Do not be scared of the truth, for it will set you free. It is a map showing the list of the places where the animals have died. This is recorded instances and not the total happenings. Everybody saw this. Be it in the small towns between here where you see dead birds, dead crows, dead birds of all description, dead magpies in Brisbane, in Perth, across the country. It is the most frightening fact to see that people can be presented with these facts and not see. Their eyes are closed and their ears are blocked. They will not be recognizing these events as causes and warnings from Yahweh God.
And when you see this map of the world with all those dots on it showing you where hundreds and hundreds of dead whales, thousands of dead dolphins are floating all over the ocean. Yahweh said he would kill the fish of the seas. There's another picture of whales and dolphins which have been totally killed by the H.A.A.R.P, that is high frequency active auroral research program, which has blown holes in the electromagnetic field of the earth. It has also killed millions of birds because they cannot navigate, because the electromagnetic field has been destroyed and because of chemtrails. Also, Yahweh warned that he would dry up the Nile River, dry up the Euphrates River, dry up the Tigris rivers, and here you've got pictures taken by the newspapers showing, there you have on your screen, that's the Nile River. And the Nile River used to have a flood every year for thousands of years.
It is important to note that even though these events can be attributed to things possibly created by man, that there is some divine intervention involved, that there is forces at work on this earth that are beyond description of human beings.
So you are looking at the beginning of the day of Yahweh's wrath, the day of his vengeance. You are looking at events that he said he would cause to happen. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind that these are events that were orchestrated by the hand of Yahweh. Look at the Euphrates River here, and that is now dried up, and there's millions of snake plagues in that area. People are getting bitten by the snakes. And if you read the old book, Yahweh said that he would produce a plague of snakes to kill the people. Now on your screen you've got a chart which I referred to on that day. I'll leave it there for a while so that you can have a look at it yourself. All of the Bible references are there so that you can do your own research. But that gives you an idea of what Yahweh says he will do at the end of days, his day of wrath, his day of anger. And some of it, as we've already shown you, is already underway.
In winding down of this report, and to add to what I said before, here is some more of the words of Yahweh and some more comparisons that you may go and look up yourself and see. Read these chapters in context. Do not just read the verse. You will see, unlike the Christians, that these verses are read in context. If you read the chapter surrounding them, they fit. That is the important thing about the Bible. It's not bits and pieces, it must fit. When Yahweh's hand to destroy is raised, the wicked do not see it. Yahweh dries up the Nile and the Euphrates. Even the waters of the Dead Sea will be desolate. Yahweh destroys the fish and the bird. You have seen that. Yahweh brings down the sun at midday. Yahweh is the judge. Many will be slain. Yahweh causes Jerusalem to be totally destroyed. Yahweh creates a new earth and a new heaven. Chosen servants blessed by Yahweh with all their needs. And to sign off, here is a chart showing who the new Israel will be and where they will be. I hope that this film has been informative for you, and I hope that you will watch it in order to extract the information from it, such that your eyes may be open and your ears may be open, so as you can see, hear and recognize the truths in the world around you. Thank you for your time. In this next scene, I would like to share something important with the Christians out there. On that day, Yahweh's day of wrath, the end of days, he will use the same destructive forces. He said, I will destroy the nations of the earth with brimstone, earthquake, hail and torrential rain. The same as he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. These cities were destroyed because of their wickedness of homosexual decadence. Today, many governments, including USA, Canada, England and Australia, have already legalised the same sin and struck off the crime of sodomy. Will Yahweh cause these nations to fall by the same destructive forces of sulfur and hail and earthquake? He said he will. It is at this point I would like to ask those of you Christians out there, where in the Old Testament does it leave room for the book of Revelation? So who can forgive sin? Taken from the original Hebrew Tanakh text. Yahweh says, I, only I, am he who wipes away your willful sins for my name's sake, and I will not recall your sins. Christians have been taught they must have Christ's blood sacrifice for forgiveness. This belief comes over from pagan gods of Egypt through Moses and the Sanhedrin Talmud Jews.
Well, one of the dilemmas that the Christian people have been taught, which is an outright lie, and they believe that Jesus is going to come and raise up the dead. Well, who resurrects the dead? Yahweh says, I am opening up your graves and raising you up from your graves, my people, and I will bring you to the soil of Israel. Then you will know I am Yahweh when I open up your graves and raise you up from your graves, my people. And when I put my spirit into you and you come to life, and I will set you on your soil, then you will know I am Yahweh. And you'll find that in Ezekiel 37 verses 11 to 14. Now this is more proof when Yahweh said, don't add to my words. And the addition of the New Testament is added words to Yahweh.